Chat GPT errs on the side of, this is great. Like, it's really encouraging. And I'm like, cool. Now get harsh. Focus more on this one element that I'm really interested in feedback on, whether it's like a specific phrasing or just tone or the length of something. And so after it's done patting me on the back, it'll be like, actually, since you're being honest, I think that you could.
Welcome to Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs, the podcast that shows you how to leverage the power of AI technology without wasting your time or selling your soul. Let's embrace making AI work for you. Hey, my Authentic AI friends, and welcome to the first ever guest interview on the Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs podcast. This has been a long time coming, and I cannot wait to share this conversation with you because we are chatting with the wonderful Cassie of Mettle and Tonic Co. And she is a copywriter who has been dipping her own toes into the world of AI, Chat GPT specifically, to see how she can utilize this tool as a copywriter. And I think you'll be interested to hear the little ways that she does it, the little nuances that she's learned from using the platform. Plus, she's also sharing her opinions on what AI means for the copywriting and other creative industries and how we can maybe think about it in different ways. And also, she shares a few things that some of her fellow peer copywriters have been experiencing when it comes to their clients and questioning if they are using AI in their work. So I know you will glean a lot of insight and awesome knowledge nuggets from this conversation with Cassie. And if you have any opinions on this topic, I would love to hear from you. So there's a few things I'd love for you to do before we dive into this conversation. If you've been enjoying this podcast, don't forget to leave us 5 stars or a friendly review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. And then connect with both me and Cassie over on Instagram. I am at Feel Good Social or at Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs. I have 2 Instagrams now. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, you can find me at either of those. Give me a follow, send me a message. Let me know that you came from the podcast, and I will be sure to give you a follow back and just continue connecting with you over there because I definitely want to hear your thoughts on all of this crazy AI world so that we can keep this conversation going and just move forward using AI in an authentic way in our businesses. All right. Let's go ahead and dive into this first ever interview on the Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs podcast. I am so excited to share this conversation with you, and I know you will love it. Hi, Cassie. Thank you so much for coming on the Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs podcast, lady. I'm so excited to bring you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk all things AI.
Oh man, it's going to be so fun to geek out with you about this because you know me, I feel like I'm a self-proclaimed word nerd, and especially when it comes to AI language learning stuff, the Chat GPT stuff, I've been like so intrigued by how copywriters are going to use it, and we can get into this and I cannot wait to chat with you. But before we do that, I always like to ask people about how they got into doing what they're doing. What is your business and who are you serving? How are you helping people in the world right now?
Yeah, so I am the copywriter and brand messaging strategist behind Mettle and Tonic, and I write potent copy for gutsy entrepreneurs who they want to stand out from the sea of same old online. And so I really primarily help service providers, coaches, and creatives with the types of copy that really make the biggest splash in your business, which is your website. A lot of my clients launch email campaigns and things like that. And of course, the messaging that influences them all so that my clients can really attract more of their perfect fit prospects and hopefully run a business that they really enjoy running.
Yes. Oh man. And I just love the work that you do and the language that you use and reading all of your emails that you send out and all of that different stuff. When it comes to AI, I guess let's just start out with what has been your introduction to the world of AI as a copywriter, and what are some of your thoughts about how you think about it, I guess, in general?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's such a wide world of AI right now, and it's just growing. And it's funny because I am always asked specifically about tools like Chat GPT, right? Because it writes. There are so many others, but that's definitely the one I have personally used the most. And I think it's an amazing tool. Like, how cool is this that like all of these different types of AI, some of them have always existed in the past several years, but now it's just like we've had just this boom. And what an interesting time to be in. I love it. I use it. Asterisk on that, right? Because when people think of Chat GPT, they think, oh, great, I don't have to write anymore. Or are copywriters becoming irrelevant now and obsolete? And so short answer, no. But overall, I have a positive view on it. And it's an interesting thing, right? Because a lot of people are a little bit afraid of it or see it as this potential force for evil or just the most amazing thing in the world. And I'm like, I think this is a morally neutral tool here. It depends on the user and how you use it. And yes, there are some scary implications for sure. But most of the people I know and talk to and work with don't have nefarious reasons for using it. So I think it's a really great thing.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad that you brought up the a little bit scary part of it or whatever, because it's so layered too. And just like AI in general, there's so many different types of AI and they mean different things like ethically and they bring up different fears for all of us and different stuff. And yeah, I think that a lot of times when people are just dipping their toes into the world of AI or like specifically into Chat GPT or other things, they're like, what does this mean? Oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. How do I use this? Am I going to get in trouble for using this? Does this mean anything about me creatively, right? Like, where you're like, if I use this, does that mean that I'm not doing my own work or anything like that? So did you kind of have to talk yourself into anything like that when you first started using it?
I think I was more curious than anything. I just wanted to see, okay, let's see what it can do. And right away was definitely impressed. That was my first reaction, was holy crap, as I think a lot of us felt. But it has been interesting to see in my various copywriting communities that I'm a part of, to see a wide range of responses, because a lot of people, I think, who, I don't know, I think it just depends on where you are in life and where you are in business and what your views on all kinds of things are. But on the far end was people who were like, great, I can use this to help my clients even more and to help my own business. Whereas the fear side, again, like these two extremes, was like, that's it, I'm going out of business. Are you guys losing business to AI? Are you seeing business just completely drop off right now? And again, I'm leaning more on the positive side of things. And I don't know, I think it's just one of those things where any business owner, copywriter or no, like you have to evolve and grow as your business does, as your audience does, as the world we live in does. And so it's, I think, a waste of energy to freak out about it. And I don't think it's beneficial to bury your head in the sand about it either. But that said, there are a lot of people. I saw an article the other day that was like, the majority of people on this earth right now aren't even aware of this AI boom. So marketers like you and me think, holy crap, this is the biggest thing to have ever happened of all time. And everybody knows about it. And whoa. Whereas most people that, who aren't business owners, who don't market, they're like, what's this AI thing? So I think we have to keep in mind, even if you're just aware of it, I think you are on the cutting edge. So there's that too.
If you want tips and strategies on how to start, grow, and monetize your business online, check out the Digital Revolution podcast with Eli Adams. We interview digital experts from around the world that share their personal stories. They talk about what they're currently working on and where they see the future going. But most importantly, they share tactics in their specific area of expertise with the hope of helping you improve your digital presence online. You can listen to the Digital Revolution podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, or simply click on the link in the show notes below.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that so much. And that's one of the reasons I do think I wanted to start this podcast, and also that I always like to ask people about this first initial reaction to it and learning about it and how you start dipping your toes into it, right? Because there are so many people who are like, just learning about it and or will continue to just be learning about it. And I do think that's always the most overwhelming and like the scariest part is like that very initial introduction to it. And so I think it's good to talk about these things and how we can react to it. I love that you use bury your head in the sand about it, because I do think that through having conversations with people about AI, through my own personal experience with being a curmudgeon about AI, I'll be truly honest, and then actually dipping my toes into it and learning about it and being like, oh, wow, this is awesome. I often think that a lot of the people who are the most fearful of it are the people who are quote unquote burying their heads in the sand about it or just haven't tried it out yet, right? Because you have these ideas in your head, these fears, like your fears generate these opinions and ideas of what it means, of what it is, of how people are using it in the world and all this different stuff. And the best way to calm those fears, I think, is to get into the reality of the situation about it and start using it. And then you can realize, okay, there are some things, like there are some ways that people could use AI for the worse, but it's also a tool that you can use in your life. There's ways that you can use it that can help to cultivate more creativity. One of my favorite ways that I've been using it is to help me break through the walls of creator's block or writer's block more quickly than I have in the past. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the tool that can help me whenever I'm feeling like I'm up against a wall, like I'm banging my head against the keyboard. What the hell am I like? Where do I want this story to go? Or what do I want this topic to really be about or come back around to? I can go to Chat GPT and have it help me creatively push through whatever is blocking me right then. So that's how I've been using AI for myself mostly, especially Chat GPT and whatnot. But I'd love to know, like, how are you using it in your business and or life in general?
Yeah, I love that's how you're using it, because that's probably my primary way of using it too, is just, working on something where I'm really starting with a blank page, when I'm writing like client copy, for example. There's so much to work with, but I think when you're writing for yourself, it's very different. And you're like, how do I do this again? And so just having like a jumping off point, I think, is probably one of the most beneficial ways to use it, because honestly, I think anything ChatGPT does spit out is merely a jumping off point. I've yet to see it really deliver just like something truly stellar in that way, where it's take it, use it as is, which is why I'm like, I feel secure in my job. This is not exactly something I want to put out into the world. For example, this week, I wanted to conduct some market research, which we were talking about before we started recording. And I have my market research file of questions and things that I would typically put together for, say, a customer interview. But I was like, I feel like I could ask more. There's probably something I'm not thinking of here. So let's go to ChatGPT. And it gave me a great outline. Like a lot of the questions, it was I already had. Cool. I got a lot of them, but it came up with some other ones where I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to frame that, or a helpful angle to look at this from. And so usually I use it in that either starting off point or supplemental way of, am I thinking of all the possible, angles about a problem I'm having or a question I have. I think brainstorming is a big one. Outlining. Back when I was putting together a private podcast for my lead magnet, I was like, I've got this vision and here's what it's about. Here's who it's for. Here are some of the ideas I have for what I want to talk about. Can you help me put this into an outline so I can break it up into 6 episodes? And the first draft was like, cool, I'll take I like the first one. I don't like the rest of them. And so I give it feedback like I would a teammate or junior copywriter or something like that. Let's focus it more on this. And I think that is truly one of the coolest parts of Chat GPT in particular, is you can give it feedback and help it get better. And that is key because, again, rarely is it going to just give you something perfect on that first pass. You need to be able to look at it in a very analytical kind of way and shape it. And that's probably one of the harder parts if you're not used to doing that, especially if you're not a writer potentially. I think few of the ways I use it. One more thing that I think I would say I frequently use it for is getting feedback on what I've written, whether it is copy or just, again, an idea I have about a business strategy or something like that. Give me feedback, like the good and the bad. and keep it to 500 words. Sometimes I'll give prompts like that, and sometimes it will contradict itself. I have found that to be funny. Like if you ask it again a different way, it'll give you different feedback. Like, actually, this thing that I said you could improve, I love it. And so you have to be able to discern and think for yourself. But still, I think sometimes that can be really helpful.
Oh, I love that. Oh, this is why I love these conversations, because there's always like new things that crop up, new ways of using different AI technology, and also like the different intricacies of what you can do with it to get different results and cater the results that you get to yourself and your business and whatnot. And I always love, this is one of those things that like immediately has popped up as like a huge theme when using, especially Chat GPT, is critical thinking skills, right?
Yeah.
Because no matter what results it gives you, you still need to run it through a filter of your brand. Or does this make sense for my ideal customers? Does this sound like me? Whatever it is. And then also too, exactly like you said, I love the idea of using it as like a junior copywriter or like an assistant to you, right? So you're still leading the show and you have to give Chat GPT instructions, feedback, and guide it along in its journey of helping you in your own business and stuff, right? So there's still always the strategy, the critical thinking skill, but there's so many cool ways you can do it. And I love that you're using it and asking it for feedback on your own writing. I have yet to do that, so I really should. But I wonder, do you remember any specifics about the differences in the prompts when like you're asking it for feedback on your own copy, that it like produced results that kind of contradicted itself?
Yeah, I think sometimes ChatGPT errs on the side of, this is great. Like, it's really encouraging. And I'm like, cool. Now criticize this, get harsh about this spec. Focus more on this one element that I'm really interested in feedback on, whether it's like a specific phrasing or just tone or the length of something if I'm trying to like really tighten up the copy. And so after it's done patting me on the back, it'll be like, actually, since you're being honest, I think that you could get more specific about something here. And I'm like, cool. And then if you put something else through it, that's too long. And it's okay. Some of that I agree with. And some of it, I'm like, we're sacrificing this other element here is the problem. Yeah, I can't think of like other like really specific prompts like that, but I just feel like you do have to, again, not take it at face value. Like you said, critical thinking is a really big part of using it well. And I think that really is key to like wanting to continue to use it, because I think a lot of people will try it out and they're like, all right, the initial novelty of this has worn off and now I'm just frustrated by it. Screw this. And I'm like, you have to work with it to really see what it can do and what its limitations are too. But I think it'll be interesting to see how it continues to evolve. There are all these iterations of Chat GPT, right? There's the pro version, which is apparently way better. I haven't made that investment. I've thought about it because I'm like, if anyone would benefit from seeing what it can do, it would be me. I've heard from other people that like, yeah, it's definitely way better at a lot of stuff. And it is what it is. It's not writing your website copy. God, the headlines are the worst. Headlines are the worst. I have tried to see, can I get this to write a really great headline? And for some reason, even when I'm like website copy, stop using colons like it's a clickbait article headline. It just won't stop doing that.
Oh my gosh, I'm laughing over here. There's so much gold in your response as well. And yeah, exactly. It's hard to remember the specific prompts and it's so nuanced based on what you're trying to ask it. But it is truly about getting as specific as possible with it. And I'm laughing so hard because it truly does want to make you happy. It's always like, tries to be enthusiastic, say, great job. And then for being honest here, I'm just laughing. I try to treat ChatGPT similar to if a junior copywriter or something like that, right? Like I try to treat it with like respect. I try to explain things in like ways that make sense because that's who I am and whatnot. But I love that
too. I think it.
Yeah,
I say please and thank you. I'm like, nobody's watching. Like,
but I do think too, I've thought a little bit like deeply about that idea, right? Because there's like a line, oh man, this is getting off on a little bit of a tangent. There's a line between this is a robot. Remember that it's not human. It's not responding to you, right? And so this isn't human, and it's still, I don't think that we as a culture should get into the habit of treating anything in this life inhumanely, right? And so there's like both sides of finding that balance and deciding for you. But anyway, that could be a whole different tangent for sure.
Well, no, especially when it does evolve to a point where we are subservient. Like you want them to remember that you were polite. So.
I love that. Totally. But anyway, yeah, that's what I've noticed too, is like the best way to use it is to get super, super specific with it and tell it exactly what you want, and tell it there's a difference. Some copy might be really good for businessmen, but that's not who your audience is. And so when you are asking it to either write copy or create content ideas or revise your own copy or anything like that, like getting specific with it about who you are, who your ideal customers are, and exactly what you're looking for critiques on, and then still having that critical thinking filter that you put it through and whatnot is so important. And I think that it is very easy to get frustrated with the results, but remember that it's okay that you're getting frustrated with results, and it's like a learning tool to help you along the way in your creative process. And the way to get better results from it is to put in better prompts. I laugh because people are like, it sucks. And like the prompts that you're giving are probably sucking too.
Yeah, probably. And I think that is true. And still, you can give it feedback. You can keep working with it. And even if you continue to improve your own inputs, it's still going to have limitations, at least right now. We'll see where it is in a couple of years. But again, I think people look at tools like this and think it should solve their problems. I think they have some unrealistic expectations around it. And it's sorry, dude, as long as you're trying to be like original and not contribute to the noise in your marketing, if that's what you're using it for, that's just one example, but you're gonna have to put the human touch on it. I do believe that. Maybe I'll be wrong in a couple years, but right now it's, if you care about standing out, if you care about conveying like just your values and your personality in your copy, that's going to be really important. I think the copywriters right now or marketers who are struggling to feel like they're losing business to AI, I do wonder who their target audience is, because I haven't seen that yet. And I know a lot of other copywriters who have not seen that yet at all either. I could go off on a tangent with that too. But I think the main point is, if you are serving anyone and everyone, or an audience who doesn't actually value your work, you probably will lose business to that, right? Because they're just like looking for the fastest, cheapest way to do stuff. And that sucks. So it's like I think it is this sort of reckoning that a lot of marketers are having of, who do I want to serve? And so there is going to be more competition than probably in this market of values-driven business owners, because suddenly people are realizing like, that's who I wanted to work with all along anyway. And so there are probably going to be increasingly people pivoting to that more, or other similar directions like that. But I don't know. It's just interesting. It's forcing us all to get better and look at things differently and try different things. I think a lot of people personally are going to get weirder with their marketing to distinguish themselves from the generic stuff that comes out of this. And I personally can't wait to see that happen. Let's get weird.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Oh, weirder. Oh my gosh, I know. Oh, side note, oh, I feel like you'll appreciate this. For the cover of Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs podcast, like the cover art and stuff, I created like just quickly this like really pretty that I think I'm going to stick with. I found this kind of watercolor AI looking like background. That was the first one I put up. And then I'm like, maybe I should get more creative with this. And I ended up trying to use, I think DALL-E is what I use, the image generator or whatever, text to image or whatever, trying to create something like kind of futuristic robot, the girl boss. And there's, oh, actually, I created this in Canva's AI image generator or whatever. But there's this photo of two girls like clinking champagne glasses or something. And it was just like, their hands, a photo of their hands, and I turned one hand into a robot hand or whatever. And it looks so like old school 60s, 70s-ish looking like robot hand, C-3PO looking robot hand from Star Wars and stuff. And then I'm like creating this whole thing and it looks super weird. And I showed it to Brett and he's, I think that's too weird for people, right? And I was like, babe, it's artistic. It's weird. I was like, okay, I'll keep that as like a side thing, maybe.
I definitely want to see that weird.
I'll probably end up me with my cover art changes. I like to go through multiple just because of the artistic side of me. But anyway, yeah, like I am excited too to see where it takes us and everything. And I have a question for you, side note, somewhat as a copywriter. I've been listening to AI for Creative Entrepreneurs podcast, which is the Copywriters Club side podcast or whatever. And so they talk a lot about copywriters and they have this they've talked quite a bit about, as a copywriter, do you embrace like using AI in your business and being like transparent with your ideal customers that you are using it? Do you use it for your customers? And then do you tell them and do you worry about if they're going to discredit your work or anything like that? Do you have any thoughts on that? The transparency with using Chat GPT as a tool in your customer copy and your workflow for that?
What a great question. And yeah, I posted a reel about this several weeks ago and I've been meaning to do a follow-up because one thing I did say was like, I use Chat GPT for a lot of things, but I don't use it to write my clients' copy. It just can't and won't do that. But again, there's an asterisk to that I do want to follow up on, which is you're not going to get AI generated copy, but I do use it, again, like we were talking about before, to brainstorm, to get at something from a different angle or ask it things like, give me some voice of customer for this type of person for this particular problem. So I do use it and I don't want to be misleading with that. But again, it's not like you're not going to look at this and be like, that had to have come from Chat GPT because it just didn't. It's part of the brainstorming and creative process. But so no, I think for situations like that, I'd be happy to share that and tell clients that. I have no problem with that. But I don't feel that it's something I need to disclose because, again, it's a tool. I also use frameworks that I learned from copy school, and I'm not disclosing that. It's just another tool. So what a great question, though. I feel like I had another thought about it, which is I think that there are potentially like other creative ways of using Chat GPT, like more specifically. I think if I wanted to help a client write something on their own, or if we were going to do like let's write this together, let's brainstorm on this together, then let's turn to Chat GPT and see what it can do. I think that would be cool, is to like actually teach people how to use it. And a lot of people are already doing that. But yeah, I feel like there was something else I was going to say. It'll come to me. But I think that it's not a problem as long as it's not a total crutch or that you're getting lazy with it. Oh, I know what I was going to say though. And the other thing was that I have heard copywriters in the communities I belong to say, I sent my client this copy. They ran it through one of those tools to see if it was written by AI. And it came back and said that it was written using AI. And these copywriters are freaking out. They're like, didn't though. And these are people like I know and I trust them. Like they probably wouldn't share this if that were true. I've heard of that a few times now. So people are having their integrity questioned, which feels terrible. And you can't really prove that you didn't do that. And it also feels crappy because does this client not trust me because they're turning right around and checking my work? Like all around, it just feels terrible. So I think that is something to be aware of, that people are going to do that. Some clients will. And this is a thing that happens. And I think it is another example of, it's like AI from the other direction being wrong sometimes. Like Chat GPT is wrong sometimes. It just is. And so the reverse can also be true. Some of those tools can be wrong. And it doesn't mean that the copy wasn't well written necessarily either. It's just that maybe they're picking up on the fact that this is a copywriting framework or a formula. And so they are detecting that. I don't know why that's happening, but that is probably the part of it to me that from an industry perspective sucks. I hate to see that happening to peers.
Wow. Oh man, I'm so glad that we brought it there and we brought that up, because I haven't heard of that happening yet. I love having these conversations. You guys are going to hear me say that again and again in these interviews. But yeah, that's so interesting. It's great to be aware of. I'm glad you brought that to our attention as something to think about and just be aware of. And possibly if you are a copywriter, something to talk about a little bit and educate your clients on, or something like that, or just make them aware of your perspective in it. I could see, here's my thoughts on it. I'm sure that firstly, AI did not completely write their copy, and it's scary that AI is like, this is AI written. But then it brings up the question of AI doesn't write its own stuff. It takes all of the different information from all over the internet and uses that to generate who writes what and who owns intellectual property. So that's a different thing. But also too, I'm just with clients like that, exactly. It really truly is making people think about, who am I serving? Who do I want to work with? And really just being clear and upfront and straightforward with that, because the clients themselves could not have gotten the copy that those people presented them with, right? Even if they did try to use AI themselves to generate their own copy. What is so awesome about copywriters is that you guys completely understand the strategy behind the words that you use and how to bring these words, put them together in a way that compels people's clients to want to buy from them, in a way that speaks to their customer's heart, in a way that connects and makes you feel unique and stand out. And you guys understand that. And if you are a copywriter and you're using AI and you're having it completely write a sales page for your customers, you still had to input a lot of stuff into Chat GPT in order to get that result, a result that you would actually put your name on and be proud of. It's a collaborative process. And so even if they were, and I'm not saying they did, I'm sure that they wrote that copy themselves. But even if they were, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, because it's not it still takes the strategy, the brain power, the critical thinking, all of that different stuff to create something magical for this client. And I think it's worth every penny that they're paying them. And they could not have generated that themselves, even with the help of AI. Don't you think so?
Yeah, no, definitely not. And there's so much editing involved. If you are using it, it's by the time you're done, it looks nothing like AI anyway. But I remember hearing along a similar line. I forget who it was, but a copywriter, I feel like it was a podcast, talking about how she had a client who they were a team, and one team member was like, this is amazing. I love that you use some of what we already had in the messaging. And then the higher ups were like, I can't believe that you took this thing from the social post we used. And she's, that's part of my job, is to find what is working and use your messaging that you already have. Unless you're completely rebranding and your messaging sucks. It's you can use what works. That's actually allowed. And that's not cheating. But some people, are very distrustful, and that's a different thing. But at the same time, I do think that some of that initial instinct, if you are having a client who is running your copy through AI and then comes back and says, I think this was written by AI, that's not a good feeling. And I think it's really important to if you know your client, if you like them and respect them, and you don't think that they're really coming from a bad place, then you can take down the defense a little bit and just be I understand why you might be concerned. And let me share with you what I know to be true about AI. And let me tell you a little bit about my process. And then let's move forward. Do you like this copy? Let's focus on revisions next.
Yes. And this is why I'm so glad that you're bringing this up. For me, It's so funny in business and stuff. I'm definitely one of those people who you'll learn all these lessons and you get triggered and then you realize, oh, okay, I was triggered by that client that one time. That response wasn't the best. So next time this happens, I'm going to have a better response, right? And that's how I feel about this. It's you don't know what you don't know. And now that you know that this could be a concern for a client, like you can prepare your own way of responding to that if that happens for you, right? And so it's okay realizing like possibly a client in the future could be concerned, or just for you, if you're listening, even if you're not a copywriter, whatever you do in your business, it's what are some concerns that my clients could possibly have about AI? If I'm working with a client in the future, consider that. And then also think about what are the responses that I might want to prepare to be able to pull out of my back pocket so that I don't react in a completely triggered way. Because if I was a copywriter and a client came to me for the first time and just completely slapped me in the face with, I think this was written by AI, like my first initial response, if I wasn't prepared, would be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would not know what. And so it's nice to like hear these stories, have these conversations, and then be able to prepare yourself for a little more professional responses than maybe just dropping the F-bomb.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness. I love this conversation so much, Cassie. I feel like I could talk to you forever. And you guys, Cassie has been a guest on the Feel Good Social podcast to talk about copywriting and pre-launch copy and whatnot. And I want to have you back on for another episode soon, probably. But anyway, if you liked this episode with her, definitely head over to Feel Good Social podcast, give her episode a listen over there. But lady, thank you so much. And please share how everyone can connect with you and find out more about you, because I know they'll want to do that.
Yeah, I would love to meet anyone in your world. And I hang out primarily on Instagram, Mettle and Tonic Co. And I also have a private podcast called The Bland Brand Antidote, which is all about messaging. And I think I talk a little bit about AI in there too, but just crafting like your brand message that feels very much aligned with you, your values, and what your audience really wants to hear. So that's a great way to hear more of my thoughts around that.
Yay. Okay. And we will link everything in the show notes below. But once again, thank you so much, honey. I loved our conversation.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
How wonderful was Cassie? You guys, I adore this woman. She has actually been a guest on our other podcast, the Feel Good Social podcast. So if you're interested in learning more about Cassie and the work and the value that she provides, definitely head over to that episode. I have linked it in these show notes below, and give that one a listen as well. And don't forget to connect with both of us on Instagram. I am at Feel Good Social and she is at Mettle and Tonic Co. We would both love to hear from you, hear what you thought was the most valuable or your own opinions about this conversation. And we will totally give you a follow back and just continue connecting with you over there. All right. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Authentic AI for Entrepreneurs, my friend. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your shows. And hey, while you're at it, we would truly love for you to give us 5 stars and leave us a friendly review, because that will do so much to help us reach more down-to-earth folks like you and spread our authentic AI message even further. If you're looking for show notes and even more resources for using AI in your business, visit our website now at DIYwith.ai. Just open up your browser and type DIYWITH.AI, hit enter, and you'll find everything that you need to start up-leveling your business with AI today.